everything else in Web3. So, Vitalik, you did a talk last week at HCC around just things that are exciting outside of DeFi. That was the name of the talk, and you listed a handful of things. We're going to definitely slice a lot of those topics and focus on a lot of the decentralized media piece. But just for the people who were not able to catch that talk, would you be able to highlight some of those high-level themes and topics you talked about on what's exciting beyond just DeFi?
Sure. So a big one was decentralized social media. I think, like, to me, decentralized social media is compelling both because, like, there is a need, like, as I had some slides there where I showed just myself tweeting my last 3 blog posts, and the responses were like, hey, when ETH, hey, you should check out Harmony $1. Hey, when Dogecoin. And it was just like, for myself personally, Twitter is just a completely useless medium for the discussion at this point, which is sad. So, like, anti-network effects are a real thing. There's also there's I think a real need for, like, a form of social media that, like, technically it doesn't have to be decentralized to achieve this, but creates an architecture other than trying to make everyone be distance one away from everyone else. And that's like, there's a lot of opportunities to innovate, right? Like, there's coming up with other kinds of structures. There's introducing incentives and, like, introducing various ways to try to just, like, optimize for getting more quality. There's all sorts of things that you can do. And decentralized social media is interesting because, like, it's a very nice playground for doing those kinds of things. It's also very friendly to the model of separating the content from the view, right? The content is decentralized and the content can live, could be on chain, could be on a Whisper-like network. We can debate the details, and then different people can make different views to the same content, which could just, like, allow for a lot more competition and experimentation with different views. And then like, crypto and decentralized tech is just ideal for kind of creating that credibly neutral grounds that the content can live on, that all the views can access. And the other thing that crypto provides is a very easy to use built-in layer for incentives, right? Like, you can have incentives for, could be posting, could be moderation, could be meta moderation, could be like, there's all sorts of ways to potentially integrate incentives in. Like, there's there's, I'm sure, lots and lots of really bad ways, but there's also some good ways as well. And, like, just, I think realistically, the only way to discover the difference between the two is probably going to be experimentation. And experimentation is something that, the blockchain space does well at as well. So there's a need, there's an opportunity. That opportunity seems compatible with what crypto provides. So that's one thing. Another thing is, as a short-term bridge, this concept of decentralized login. And, like, basically, you should be able to use your Ethereum accounts to log into things. And I think Ethereum accounts with, if we also move to smart contract wallets and add things like social recovery wallets, which I'm a well-known big fan of, then, like, you can create something which is both self-sovereign and I think provides a better experience than, like, existing Google and Twitter accounts, right? Like, the usual cited advantage of centralization is, if you screw up, you can always go talk to mommy, and, like, Google or Twitter will help you. But in practice, like, I've had friends that have actually, like, lost access to their Google or Twitter accounts, and, like, actually existing mommy is not very responsive. If you're rich and famous, mommy can often be responsive, but if you're not, then it can be very hard. So, like, social recovery, I think, can even outcompete the existing centralized providers there, which is interesting. And also, like, getting the adoption for these things often ends up being very network effect dependent. And the really nice thing about Ethereum accounts is that, like, they already have the network effects. There's already millions of people that have them. So piggybacking off of that and off of the fact that, like, they're not going to lose their accounts because their account already stores other, like, crypto tokens and DeFi things that they already care about. So that's two. And then three is retroactive public goods funding. So basically, yeah, Ethereum, like I think we're already entering this transition stage from DeFi to DGov and like talking about DAOs and how those DAOs are going to be governed. And those DAOs have big treasuries. They and or at least the opportunity to get a lot of revenue. But at the same time, like figuring out how to actually spend that revenue in a both credibly neutral and non-terrible way is a hard problem for a lot of them. And so I suggested like basically committing to giving out these retroactive prizes for things that the DAO recognizes as being valuable, and then essentially creating a prediction market where people can speculate on those prizes and kind of issue and trade project tokens as being this model that is worth experimentation. I think it's interesting because it kind of combines together different components that kind of cancel each other's weaknesses, right? Like decentralized voting is good at being incredibly neutral, but it's often bad at understanding what things are important ahead of time because decentralized voting is conformist, and conformism often is not good at figuring out like what's going to be valuable in the future. And then like prediction markets are like this wonderful technique for like basically empowering people who are good at predicting the future and letting them guide decisions in the present. So combine those two together, and this seems like it's a direction that seems very, very worth experimenting with. I mean, I think there's other themes as well, and like I think the core themes are like one is branching, like well, the core theme is obviously branching out beyond DeFi, and I think like branching out onto just spheres of human coordination that are non-financial, and like discussion is a big part of that, and governance is the other big part of that. So like, can we make both of them better?
Coordination, the paying for retroactive funding of good works is a thing that.
With a Barclaycard Platinum credit card, you could get 0% interest on purchases for up to 2 years.
Crypto can enable now that people have been talking about for a very long time as something that is clearly very useful and clearly necessary for many kinds of impact. And in R&D, especially, you have like this world where the science and what you know so far can give you a glimpse of what is likely to be made. The market is not good at incentivizing what's very close to the science. The market is good at incentivizing the production of the actual making of products that are very close to end users that can pay for something. And so you have this chasm this Death Valley chasm in the middle, where R&D is fairly difficult to do and pay for and so on. And historically, it's been the realm of either entrepreneurs building a new thing, and that's like a pretty difficult, hard pathway, getting way easier with time, but fairly unpredictable, or the realm of like massive tech companies that can stomach the kind of like $1 billion to $10 billion per year budgets for R&D, or governments with kind of like large agencies. But when you add up all of the funding scales of all of the government agencies and these large corporations and whatnot, it doesn't actually take that much money to do that kind of large scale R&D. The problem is that it's a coordination problem. And if you can do the kind of retroactive funding of R&D scalably with this and kind of pipe in the tens of billions of dollars worth of value through, you could vastly accelerate very hard work that right now is not getting done at all. So many industries are rate limited by the ability to do this kind of R&D pipeline work. And the retroactive funding thing, I think, can play a super key role. One of the things that I've been actually talking a lot about today with folks and recently is this idea about certificates of impact. So this is a concrete association of a retroactive funding scheme where people can create a certificate of having done really good work in the past, having a good impact on something. A really good articulation of it comes from the effective altruism community. Highly recommend folks to go check it out. You can make that on NFTs today. So we could have a certificate of impact market, right now, built in a few days using the NFT machinery, and then create like the larger scale retroactive funding system ever built. And that's something that, maybe it's like a hack away. Like maybe one of the teams in the hackathon could go and build that thing that could have super valuable impact in the whole world. And it's a combination of kind of all of this convergence of threads on kind of the NFT boom, plus the creation of markets around them, plus it's kind of like retroactive funding algorithms, plus crypto and the ability to kind of move capital flows much more efficiently than traditional markets.
So let me offer a few points. Those are all great, actually. Maybe two complementary points. One is this is kind of a little bit not exactly what you asked, Karthik, but in the ballpark. One is that regarding everything, Vitalik and I have been thinking a lot about decentralized media. Another angle on this is that we're moving from internet influencers to crypto creators. And an extremely important thing for everybody in Ethereum and then generally crypto is find your nearest influencer and get them into crypto. Find your friend and get them into crypto. Let me explain why. First is these are folks who are distribution channels that are not legacy media channels, that are individuals that you can have like a human-to-human conversation with, and you can kind of turn them on to what crypto allows. In particular, many of these influencers get either $0 or very throttled dollars from their existing platforms. YouTube gives them some money. Other platforms like Twitter, give them none. And we're already seeing that move to Substack and so on, and now to Mirror and to BitClout and other kinds of things. And so I don't think of this as a small thing. I think of this as, at least in terms of scale, the transition from communism to capitalism in East Asia and China and what have you. Like obviously there's a lot of human rights abuses that are happening there, but just at the property rights level, you didn't actually own anything in China. The teeth in your head under communism weren't actually even owned. There's this great article on this, the secret document that transformed China at npr.org from several years ago. Point being that nobody could actually own anything. They didn't have property rights in the sense of Hernando de Soto. It was essentially something where everything belonged to the collective. And that actually is the state of Facebook and Twitter and social media right now. There is no such thing as digital property rights prior to crypto. And once you actually truly own your profile and you own, it's not really owning your data per se. That's kind of a misnomer because you could always download that. It is the ability to contact other people on platform. That messaging ability is intermediated by these hubs, these Twitters and Facebooks, and they can, as they did with Trump, they could just like remove your ability to contact others. Now, whether one agrees or not with that decision, the point is you don't have property rights on such a platform. There's no due process. And, the sort of, I think, thoughtless recourse to, oh, it's a private company, they can do what they want, is kind of stupid because really it's a technological failing that something so valuable could just be seized from you arbitrarily, right? There's due process in other areas. So it's not just about property rights, it's not just about due process, it's about direct monetization for these crypto creators, because in the same way that you wouldn't rent a domain name for a primary project, you'd buy it. These people are going to move from renting effectively usernames from Twitter and Facebook and having them expropriate all the money that is going through there to having things like ENS, to having their own sovereign, kind of things, not because they're like, crazy censorship, resistant kind of people, but simply because they want to monetize without some giant corporation being able to take all of it, right? They give leverage against that giant corporation, right? So that's a crypto creator aspect. And there's like the immediate visceral monetization kind of thing. But then there's the second order, which is having creators on sides is going to be crucial in terms of having a voice to push back against silly regulations, thoughtless regulations, both in the US and abroad. And if you've got something where someone's making even $1,000 a year from accepting cryptocurrency on their website, or they have a handle where they realize, hey, I can't be deplatformed by Twitter or Facebook, then they realize that a lot of these pushes for regulation are not about consumer protection, they're about bank protection. They're about, Facebook protection and Twitter protection, right? They're not about protecting consumers, they're about protecting corporations from the depredations of disruption, right? And so once you make that argument to those influencers, you turn those internet influencers into crypto creators, that builds a defense department for our entire space. So find your nearest influencer, convert them to crypto, help them see this, get them on Mirror, or something like that. And that's kind of my advice to folks watching this.